Welcome to the Boxing Gossip podcast, number 79, podcast 79. Coming to the end of the year, this week we're going to start the first half of the show is going to be the standard format. We're going to look at last week's boxing. We're going to talk some of the major news stories in the sport of boxing. The second half of the podcast, we're going to do an awards ceremony. We're going to talk through all of our various nominees for Fight of the Year, Fighter of the Year, etc., and debate that. So should be all good. Thanks to everyone who's joined in the chat. Can see a lot of the usual faces with us live. So thank you very much to everyone who's joined already. We got a full house on the panel tonight. So thanks to Tom, to Jay, to Jet, to Paul for all joining and for all giving up their Wednesday nights. Let's do this. First things first, let me start by giving a shout out to Boxing Gossip myself and to Jet, the only two people on the panel who picked the correct result of the Billy Joe Saunders fight. We had a lot of Billy Joe Saunders doubters in the house. Irish Tom picking Lemieux, having yet another howler only a week after his pick of Guillermo Rigondeaux. So maybe some backtracking from him tonight. But without further ado, let's get started and let's bring in Jay. Jay, how you doing, mate?
Oh, very well, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Christmas indeed. Jay, Billy Joe Saunders, give us your take on his performance.
Well, I did actually think he could nick it, but I didn't. I thought it would be quite tight. I didn't think it would be as wide as it was. I always thought you'd give Lemieux or Lemo a chance, and he was always going to, I thought, be in the fight. He's a good fighter. He's not an elite fighter, but he's a good fighter. But what Billy Joe Saunders showed on Saturday night was something from an elite fighter. He's always said that he's had it in him, that he can be so much better. And we've heard it a lot and we've heard it over and over again, but we've never actually seen it. We've seen glimpses, but never the full finished product. And to be honest, his footwork was outstanding. His head movement was fabulous. His jab was totally on point. And from the first bell, the first round, he kept it going all the way through. His conditioning was obviously right. And it was just a really exceptional, outstanding performance. The kidology I really liked. I grew up watching, my three favourite fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Prince Nazim, Roy Jones Jr., the kidology they do, the alley shuffle, the looking away. I love all of that, as long as you are doing the business in the ring at the same time. And that's exactly what I did. And it was just a great performance. And everyone's raving about it, and rightly so. Hopefully he can keep to the same routine, keep the same training camps going, keep the same focus. And he's going to cause Canelo and Golovkin a few issues.
Absolutely. I think before this fight, it was very much Golovkin and Canelo, and then quite a big gap down to the likes of Billy Joe Saunders. Do you think he's bridged that gap? And, people seem to be now talking about him as someone who can win those fights, Jay.
And that's exactly right. Beforehand, if you'd have asked me, maybe even before this fight, would he have any chance against Golovkin and Canelo? And I'd say he'd give a decent account of himself, but, there's not much chance of a victory. And I've thought that for a very long time. When he originally was going to sign to fight Golovkin, I just, he was saying, I've got to test myself to try and beat the best, to see if I am the best. And to be honest, it was kind of, I thought he'd give it the old British try and have a go, but he wouldn't be successful. He'd fall short. But now, after seeing that, the confidence he's going to take from that fight against Lemieux is going to be astronomical, and that will only help him. He's a confidence fighter, and he proved to people around the world what exceptional talent he is. And I'm sure Golovkin, after the Canelo fight, because I think it's signed, isn't it? He's or Golovkin or Canelo, I think they're both going to look at him and think, this isn't going to be as easy as they might think, unless their egos are completely astronomical and out of sight. But there is fights open for him, whether he can get that fight or not. But he needs to get back out quickly, like they said. He needs to be out in April, May, and needs to keep that continuity going, to keep that form.
Well, with Billy Joe Saunders, he isn't a pay-per-view name. He isn't somebody who has a track record of selling a lot of tickets. Is there a risk that he may now be viewed as not adequate risk reward by the big names in the division like Golovkin, Canelo, or do you think they're interested in unifying the division with Billy Joe holding the WBO will mean they're still keen to make those fights, Jay?
I think Golovkin will not be too concerned about that. I mean, he's more one for unifying the division, isn't he? The age he's getting to, the legacy, etc., etc. Canelo, on the other hand, Canelo will bring tickets whoever he's fighting. He'll sell tickets. He'll make money whoever he's fighting. He's a pay-per-view name, isn't he? Whether he will want it, I'm pretty much sure he will. I'd imagine Canelo's ego is big enough to think that he can take Billy Joe Saunders. And there's going to be a lot of hype around Billy Joe now, which will only generate, there's a lot to build on to generate interest from the boxing fans. So I think they would both take that fight quite easily, and quite, without too many questions.
Definitely. Did you happen to watch Spike O'Sullivan on the undercard, Jay?
Yeah. Good old Spike did well, pulled it out the bag. He's a funny one, isn't he? I mean, he's not an elite fighter. He's never going to touch that. They talk about a rematch with Billy Joe Saunders. It'd be the same result. It'd be the same result if he fought, Danny Jacobs, Golovkin, any of these guys. He's not an elite fighter. He's a bit of a banger, and he produced something which I didn't think he was going to do at the weekend, and I'm very happy for him. But after what you kind of saw in the Eubank fight, that for me just took his stock down completely. He wasn't good in there, was he? So where he goes, I don't know. I'd be looking for a European title fight possibly, but I'm sure, he's growing that reputation in Boston and in America, and I'm sure HBO are probably talking him up, saying, "Yeah, you win this, we'll get you a title shot, we'll get you a big fight." And I'm sure he buys into it and believes it, because you have to. If you're a fighter, you've got to believe in your own ability, and you've got to believe that you can be one of the best in the world. But in reality, I don't think that's the case.
I completely agree, mate. I, for one, would not want to see that Billy Joe Saunders rematch. It's a game of levels, and Spike is a fun fighter to watch at a certain level, but he's not going to be competitive in that kind of fight. What about Povetkin, Jay? What was your take on his performance?
Plodding, average. I watched your video, and I think you were spot on. It's either he's gone over the hill. He's 38 now. He's gone over the hill. It's not there anymore. Or what drugs he was using, he's now not using, and that's very, very, very obvious. Povetkin, for one, shouldn't ever be in the ring. Shouldn't be allowed to fight. It's ridiculous how he's allowed to fight, but that's the world we live in. Taking away, the drugs issue totally. It was not a great performance, not against a great opponent. It was clinical to a certain extent, but there was just not enough shown. Whether he's a fighter that needs a better opponent to bring more out of him, I'm not exactly sure. But the thing is with Povetkin, regardless of whatever drugs issues he's had, he's still a name that people will want to put on their bills. So, he could be regarded as a top 6, top 5 heavyweight in the world at the moment. So he will get those, I think he's mandatory for the WBA. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So he's gonna get those fights, and to be honest, before the whole drugs issue, I'd like to have seen him against Wilder, against Joshua, against the big names of the division. But from that showing at the weekend, it was non-inspiring. But he'll always make money if he fights in Russia. He's got big support in Russia. There's a lot of money over there. But Christiana, he's not a big guy either. I think you mentioned that as well. He's not a big guy compared to these superhuman heavyweights that we have now. But he's a fighter that will get those fights and will always have a chance because he's a good fighter. But what he's got left since the drugs issue, or since turning 38, going on 39. We'll have to wait and see, to be honest. But we didn't really learn anything from that fight. It was just another fight and another win. And let's see where we go from there in 2018.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Over 100 people watching live. If you're one of those 100, please hit the thumbs up button. Less than a quarter of you have done so far. Please help us out. And by doing that, more people will be able to join with us live. Let's move over and let's bring in Irish Tom slightly earlier than his usual slot as the anchor of the team. Iris, let me come to you next, mate, and let me ask you about Billy Joe Saunders. You were someone who was potentially picking, well, definitely picking Lemieux last week. I take it you were impressed.
Did you just say I was the wanker of the team?
No, the anchor. You know, like on a relay team, someone runs the anchor leg.
I'm joking, Gossip. I knew what you said.
I know you're a sensitive soul, and I wouldn't want you. With hurt feelings, Tom.
Sorry, what was the question? I was too busy thinking of a joke. What was the question?
Billy Joe Saunders, give us your take on his performance.
Oh yeah, I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. You know, his fitness is much, much better now that he's living with Kid Galahad. His fitness has got much better. Gone from a 6-round fighter to 12-round fighter. Enough said. He displayed great boxing ability. Look, Billy Joe's, we always thought he got great boxing, but a lot of his problems have been mental. I didn't think he would be able to box so well for 12 rounds. I thought he won a 12-0. I can't see a round for Lemieux. I think sometimes people give a round to a fighter when they do better than they did in the other rounds, and they give him like a sympathy round. I think it's a 12-0 fight. You know, but if Billy Joe wasn't a 12-round fighter, you know, you could see them giving. He got 2 rounds and 3 rounds once. If it was a 9-3 fight, it's a draw. So Billy was excellent. It puts him right up there in the top 4 of the middleweight division. For me, that's the best performance by a British fighter, I think, this year. Is there a better performance?
Well, that's going to be one of the categories we discuss in our later awards show. So I won't spoil the surprise just yet, but he's certainly in the conversation. Let's put it that way. Did you check out your man Spike?
I just saw bits of Spike. I didn't see all of that much of Spike, but
yeah, it was a classic Spike performance, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just, you know, Spike is only good for that. You know what I mean? He's not much good for much more. He'll give you an exciting fight at the lower level, but then, you know, that's about it.
Do you? There was a lot of talk afterwards about the Spike Saunders rematch. That's a fight I'd particularly like to avoid. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, I think the Spike rematch was probably about as good a fight as how would be as good a fight as that? Some of these rematches that we're getting that nobody asked for. What's the one Eddie Hearn is? Was there some rematch recently that no one ever asked for?
As good as Bellew, Cleverly, if we were to ever get that again.
Oh no, even Bellew. Well, for me, Bellew. Hey, there was some really bad. Oh yes, it was the Hall versus Butler rematch.
Ah, yeah.
The rematch that everybody wanted, but no one got. Or what we got. Yeah, no, I don't want to see that. Jesus, if Billy Joe was on fire, you know, like on that viewing, Billy Joe would school Chris Eubank, because that Billy Joe was much better than Chris Eubank then, and we've never seen Eubank in with a boxer since, and I don't think Eubank has learned anything about boxing. About being against a boxer, that they kept him away from him. So I think that Billy Joe Saunders will school Eubank. I think that's the rematch I would like to see. I'd like to see that at a catchweight. Let them do it at 164 pounds.
The only thing that, Tom, is would Saunders have to give up his belt if he did that? I don't know the answer.
No, you just do a voluntary. You only have to defend against your mandatory once a year, and then you can do what the hell you want.
Even if you're fighting outside of the weight class?
Yeah.
You can, okay.
Yeah, look, look at, well, people used to do that all the time. They'd have the world title belt, and then they just have some non-title fights. It'd just be a non-title fight.
Cal Brooks did it, didn't he?
Against who?
Cal Brooks stepped up 2 weights, didn't he, and kept his belt.
Good point. Yeah, you're spot on.
But didn't they strip Rigo just recently? I mean, I think it depends on who you are.
That's the WBA.
Quite individual. This is what I mean. You know, it's quite an
That's the
individual.
WBA. I'd say, you know, and Frank, you know, he's got the WBO belt, and Frank, you know, basically runs that organization. So they're never really.
What about the Golovkin and Canelo fights, Tom? Historically, Saunders has always been seen as an underdog in those. How has your opinion developed subsequent to the performance against David Lemieux?
I think he beats Canelo. He's got the perfect style to beat Canelo. But GGG is a tougher fight because GGG, remember, GGG's got a very, very good jab. And he dominated Danny Jacobs, who's got a good jab. He won that fight on the jab. So, and the other thing as well, if Billy Joe was able to land his jab, I think that Golovkin will be able to land his jab at the same time. You know, getting hit with the Golovkin jab again and again, that can just beat you up. You know, that can actually weigh you down. You know. But you know, it was an excellent performance by Billy Joe. Like, you know, and it's a lot of travelers and shit get abuse on Twitter. All the traveler fighters, you can say things about traveler fighters that you can't say about black fighters. You know, you know, in comment sections they get a lot of hassle, and you know, it's ironic to me that travelers who get put down as being stupid and pikey and all this. Like, look at the two best proponents of pure boxing. You know, elite level, highly skilled fighters in England. The two of them are Tyson Fury and Billy Joe Saunders. You know, so it's good to see the Gypsy Boys putting forward like a highly, just a very cerebral view on boxing. And the other thing as well is the styles are fun. You know, just a fantastic performance. And you know when you're watching boxing, like if you watch 80s boxing, remember you were talking about this talk about Mike Tyson there a few weeks ago. Yeah, and you're talking about the style of the heavyweights. And you know, everybody was so influenced by say Sugar Ray Robinson. Ali was influenced by Sugar Ray Robinson. By Muhammad Ali, the dancing style, and you know, boxers have been very flat-footed for a long time, but it's the Gypsy Boys are bringing it back. You know, that style is shown to still be relevant. You know, so much of it's just fashion.
Absolutely, absolutely. They've Billy Joe Saunders is mastering that style. Tom, final question: if Billy Joe Saunders did exactly what he did to David Lemieux against Saul Canelo Alvarez, literally exactly the same. And I know Canelo's a lot better than Lemieux, and it went to the scorecards. What do you think the result would be?
I think he might win by split decision, but it could be a draw.
Okay. You think you think that performance would be too one-sided to take it away from him?
Well, like, I think, you know, if you wanted to, like, I think you could give a maximum of 3 rounds to that fight. And then with Canelo, you just add 3 or 4 rounds to whatever is the maximum. You know? And then you get one of the scorecards. Yeah. You know, that's, you know, if you're as generous as possible and then add 4, that'll be one of the scorecards. So
fair enough. All right. Cheers, Tom. We'll come back to you in just a second. Paul. Are you good to speak now, mate?
I'm good, but I haven't had this call yet. So if I do get it, if my phone goes, I'll just have to shoot up very briefly. No
worries. No worries. Jet, I don't think is ready to jump in, so I'll come to you first, and I'll go to Jet afterwards. But Paul, let's start with Billy Joe Saunders, mate. Where else? What was your take on that?
I was massively impressed with Billy Joe Saunders this time. Look, you know, I picked Lemieux to beat him simply based on Saunders' recent form, Saunders' fitness issues, his gas tank issues. I just didn't think he would have he would sort of like turn this around so quickly. You know, we always hear people say, yeah, you know, like training camp's gone amazing. Whoever says anything other than training camp's gone amazing, on this occasion, it looks to me like it has. And I think, you know, going up to Sheffield, to Winterbank, to the Ingles, and that has been invaluable for Billy Joe Saunders. I think, I mean, like the performance was flawless. I agree with Iris. I think it's a 12-0. I don't think you can find. I can't find. I rewatched it yesterday or the day before. I really can't find a round to give to Lemieux. I couldn't find a round to give to him. I don't think there was a round that was even close enough to give to him.
I think round 12, just because Saunders didn't do anything offensive. But I see your point. It was just complete mastery, wasn't it?
But, I mean, he still didn't land anything of note. And it's I don't know which one. Saunders took one of the rounds off, maybe like 11 or something. He even said that in his post-fight interview. But even then, Lemieux just couldn't land on him. It was an absolute masterclass. His footwork was amazing. He was changing directions when he was moving off. He was staying on the right side of Lemieux all the time, keeping away from the left. Lemieux he frustrated Lemieux very, very quickly. And you know, to be fair, look, Lemieux, we know what we get with Lemieux. He's a brawler, he's a puncher, but he's got no plan B. He's got no plan B whatsoever. He telegraphs. You know, even his left, he telegraphs quite a bit, but the right, he telegraphs ridiculously. No jab whatsoever. He can't get out the way of a jab. I thought Saunders' jab was amazing all night. Really, really good. It's not like a Triple G jab where, you know, he's going to bust you. If you look at like Triple G Rosado, where, you know, Rosado just looked like his face had been for a meat grinder from like 8 or 9 rounds with that jab. But Saunders is like, the jabs, it's quick, it's varied, it's prolific, and I think I just was really, really impressed with Saunders. And he didn't run out of gas at all. For me, he looked just as sort of like, no, he wasn't getting hit a lot, but he looked, you know, he looked to have retained his stamina right up to the end. It was a fantastic performance for me.
Spot on. Can't disagree with a word, mate. Let me ask you a related question. It's a chat I had off air a few months ago with Ultratech. But right now, is there a trainer in the country, or is there a trainer in the world who you would rather be with than Dominic Ingle?
Well, if it was me personally, just based on how I used to fight, I'd rather be with Abel Sanchez. But I definitely understand the point. And yeah, I mean, Dominic Ingle is definitely the best trainer in the country by a mile for me. Definitely, he's a fantastic trainer, and you know, his advice is usually pretty good in the corner as well. You know, his what he says to the fighters. I thought Lemieux's corner was just like they have no plan. They seem to have no plan, and I don't know whether that's just like Lemieux's total lack of versatility. It's like he just searched for that. For the big punch the whole night. That was all he did. He couldn't cut off the ring at all, and there just seemed to be no plan B. But yeah, no, definitely, I agree on Ingle. Yeah, he's a brilliant trainer.
I guess as good as Saunders was, Lemieux was just as bad in all reality. Do you think that's the last we'll see? And you know, we were talking Calzaghe-Lacey last week, Paul. I'm not going to suggest this was anywhere near as bad a beatdown as that was, but is that such a one-sided fight? It may be hard for Lemieux to ever have the same fear factor and to ever bounce back to the same extent.
I don't know. I don't know about that. You know, Calzaghe-Lacey, Calzaghe sort of like threw and landed sort of like 10 times more punches probably. And he really beat him up. You know, Saunders didn't so much beat him up as school him. He beat him up at points as well, but it was more a schooling. I think that won't be the case for Lemieux, you know, like losing the fear factor just simply because of that power. I mean, if it's only he knocked Curtis Stevens out cold, absolutely out cold. I think because of that, he'll still have the fear factor there. But I think, you know, Lemieux looked like I think his ego took a real bruising from that fight. If you look at him when I rewatched the fight yesterday, I was scrolling through the comments in the YouTube video, and someone was talking about Lemieux's face at the end during the interview, and he was saying like he looked like he wanted to cry in that, and he actually did. He was like, I couldn't throw my left the way I wanted to. If you want to run or fight, that's up to you and whatnot. It's just like I think his ego took a real bruising, because I think he believes in his power so much. I think he believes in his ability to land his power so much that Billy Joe Saunders just kind of like made him rethink how good of a fighter he is. Look, Billy, we've said it, haven't we? We've been saying it for ages. We've always known Billy Joe Saunders on his day is a fantastic fighter. I doubted whether he'd ever get back to that. It would seem he has, for me.
Spot on. And good point for raising that. I thought that was absolutely cringeworthy afterwards, blaming it on his left hand being sore. The issue wasn't that his hand was hurt, so that he couldn't land with his hand. You know,
I think it's interesting to note as well. He was very careful what he said. He didn't say he hurt his left hand. If you listen to what he said I couldn't throw it the way I wanted to. I think that's a man thinking, or I better not make any claims here in case like people look at it like they were with the Rigo and say, well, where did you hurt it? Where did you hurt it? You didn't fucking land anything. Do you know what I mean? His ego was bruised. His good model wife was there at ringside, and I think his ego was bruised, as a lot of guys would be. But you take it like a man, don't you?
There you go. Yeah, at least you didn't pull out after 6, hey?
True.
There you go. All right, cheers, Paul. 120.
Can I just say something on the?
Yeah. You go for it, mate.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, like on the potential matchups now with Canelo and Triple G.
Yeah.
I think he is all wrong for Canelo. I think he's all wrong for Canelo. I with Irish and I'd actually pick him to what we see in the ring. I think Billy Joe Saunders will probably beat Canelo. Whether he would get the decision or not, fighting like that, I don't know, because it depends on the judges done it and what they like. Triple G, I'd still pick to beat him. You know, the huge differences between somebody like Lemieux and somebody like Triple G. Triple G has a jab. He has an outstanding jab, a world-class jab. Triple G can cut the ring off like probably better than any certainly as good as any fighter in boxing today. I think those two factors would negate a lot of what Billy Joe did the other night. I don't think he would be able to just dance around the outside and change directions like he did on Lemieux. All he had to do was change directions, and Lemieux just followed him. Triple G wouldn't do that, you know. And so I think it's really interesting. But he's definitely made a name for himself, more of a name for himself. A lot of, like, everybody's praising him. A lot of hype around him now, and he's done himself a lot of favors there for me.
I agree. I guess the only thing I'd throw in is, for me, Golovkin looks like a fighter who's aging. You know, he's 35, 36, something like this. There's a few signs of slippage in his recent fights. If he slows even another % or two, which one would assume he will in the next year or two, if he keeps showing signs of age, for me, that Billy Joe Saunders is not a guy you can beat as an older fighter, because he's so fast on his feet. He's so mobile. He's got such good reactions, such good distance, etc. that you need to be on your A game. And if Golovkin, who's a slow guy to begin with, if he gets another 5% slower, if he ages just a little bit more, then, you know, I think that could be a pivotal factor in the fight, I guess.
I'm not so sure about this idea that Triple G is aging. You know, like the Kell Brook fight, I think he had no respect for Kell Brook because he was smaller. He had no respect for his power, and just kind of like treated it as a bit of a fucking brawl. Like, yeah, Danny Jacobs was huge. Danny Jacobs coming to the ring like a cruiserweight, and for me, Golovkin just still beat him quite clearly on my card. I thought he beat him quite clearly, and then he fights Canelo, who is a much younger man, and for me, he beat Canelo quite clearly as well. So when you think of those three fighters, no, he didn't look the same as he did in the Lemieux fight, but we are talking about different levels in the people he's facing since that. And I just think I'm not sure that it's him aging like everybody sort of seems to think. I thought he looked quite good in the Canelo fight. I thought he beat him quite handily.
Yeah, see, I thought the Canelo fight, I thought a draw was about fair, and I also could have seen Jacobs possibly getting an upset. But what I will say is Golovkin's 35. He's the kind of fighter who, isn't the hardest to hit guy out there. To be honest, it would actually be more of a surprise if he wasn't aging. He's not a guy who's necessarily going to hit his peak in his 40s or, still be at the top of his game like Floyd was. For me, the slippage is kind of inevitable, really, especially in the next year or two. Don't you think, Paul?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable at some point. And I guess to sort of like just clarify what I'm saying here, you might be right. Some of this stuff may be due to slippage. I'm just saying I'm not sure it's kind of like all sort of like Triple G slipping, and it's not sort of like the fact that he's fought Canelo and the fact that he's fought a big guy like Danny Jacobs, who can also move, who's got good hand speed and stuff like that. I just think those factors also played a significant part. Look, of course, he's going to age, and the longer it takes for it to happen, a potential fight, the more chance I give Billy Joe, definitely, because he's a younger man. But I think, for example, if the Canelo fight wasn't to happen and they made the Billy Joe Saunders fight next, say it was in April or May or something, or earlier in the year, I'd pick Triple G to win, and I'd feel quite comfortable with that pick, just based on the styles and based on what I see when I look at the two fighters.
Interesting. Okay. Appreciate that, Paul. Good comments as always. We'll come back to you in just a minute, mate. 140 of you guys watching live now. Please hit the thumbs up if you are watching live. Let's try and keep getting more people joining and finding out about the channel, and hitting the thumbs up is the most affordable way you guys can help me do that. We've also had one new subscriber hit subscribe since we've been live. So if that is you watching, shout out to you. Thanks for joining. If you are watching live and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Let me bring in Jet. Jet, first and foremost, let me just check you're okay to speak, mate.
Yeah, all good, mate.
Thanks for that, pal. Jet, let's just start by asking you for a run through of Saunders, Lemieux, and your sort of takeaways from that matchup.
Yeah, not too much else to add. I think, everyone's kind of said what needs to be said. He looked fucking class in there, to be honest. Lemieux looked like dog shit, to be honest. But, that's kind of my take on it. Saunders was, by and large, a level above, and he's on to bigger and better things. Me and you, Gossip, we picked him, so obviously, shout out to us. But we all know how good Billy Joe is on his day, and the Ingle, the move to the Ingles has done him wonders. And yeah, it's good to see as a British boxing fan. He's a lot of people that I've spoken to off air, they've been really, really interested in him, and it's good stuff.
Sorry, I had myself on mute because I got a kettle boiling in the background. So sorry if there's a little bit of background noise for the next 30 seconds. Jet, Ingle, is he the best trainer in the UK right now? And also, how do you see the Canelo and Golovkin matchups with Billy Joe now?
The Canelo and Golovkin fights, I'll talk about that. I mean, I think he's stylistically all wrong for Canelo. I think he gives Canelo, all sorts of problems. He's I'm with Irish and Paul on that one. He's a different, he's a different gravy when it comes to boxing skills and class. And Canelo would probably, you know, the thing is with Bill, I think he probably approached the, you know, the boxer first mentality. I think he'd box from range, and he'd have to have Canelo, you know, press in the action. And Canelo's, you know, he's flat-footed, and I wouldn't say he's the most natural come forward guy. So, you know, he's obviously struggled against the guys, you know, the guys that move on the back foot like Lara and those sort of guys. So I think Billy Joe is actually substantially better than Lara, and on his day. So yeah, I think he'll give him all sorts of problems. GGG depends on what GGG turns up. You know, the last few fights he has showed a bit of you know, I wouldn't say deterioration, but he slightly slipped a step or two. He's lost a bit of the fear factor, but you know, he would definitely be a much better opponent and a much more sizable, you know, challenge compared to David. I hurt my left hand Lemieux. Yeah, he was. What I will say, sorry, Gosty. What I will say about him, he was fucking classless, man. Absolute tit in the interview, and he's come out. I think yesterday or today he said congratulations, and he tagged Billy Joe on Twitter, and he's like, "I'll be back." Well, not on that performance because he'll get scored by any top middleweight in the world because, you know, he has power, but that's all he has for him, and that's it.
Yeah, I totally agree. He looked very, very, very basic in there. Jet, what about Eubank? Irish Tom mentioned that earlier. My take is that we're now in a position where both guys have improved from the initial fight. How would you see that one going if they rematched?
I've been asked this multiple times by people, and I'll always say what you know, I've always thought. I think Billy Joe beats him in the rematch, and you know, that was a very, very, you know, out of shape. I'm not going to train for the fight. Billy Joe kind of demotivated. This one is a, you know, on song, motivated, fit, healthy, world class Billy Joe Saunders, and I think Eubank cannot box from range. You know, Eubank is elite on the inside, but can he get on the inside as you know, against someone as elusive, as smart, and as, you know, technically sound as Billy Joe? I don't think so. You know, it'd be interesting to see maybe after the Groves fight, because I think the Groves fight will tell us a lot about how much Chris Eubank Jr. has improved. But at the same time, George Groves isn't the fighter that resembles a Billy Joe Saunders. So it's difficult, but we will know it slightly more when it comes to you know, after February, how much Eubank has improved from range, and if he has a realistic chance against Billy Joe. But for me, I think Billy Joe beats him, you know, pretty much every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. Interesting.
Yeah. It's certainly one of the most appealing fights in British boxing if it were to happen. And, you know, who knows? Perhaps one day it'll be too big not to happen, I guess. Okay, Jet, anything else to add about any of the other action, be it Spike or Povetkin or any of the other fights?
Povetkin is a drug cheat, so fuck him. And Spike, yeah, good win for Spike, man. He underdog win against Douglas, was it? And
correct.
Yeah. Well done to him. Billy Joe Saunders, I do not want to see that rematch. But yeah, if he gets like fed as cannon fodder, maybe to if he gets fed as cannon fodder to maybe like GGG or I don't know, like Murata or someone like that, then yeah, fair play to him. At least he'll get a payday. And you know, he's had his hard knocks in boxing, and he's talked a lot of crap. But yeah, he went and done a job on you know, a guy who was supposed to be coming back after a loss to Kurtzides. And yeah, best of luck to him in the future.
Good stuff. All right, cheers, Jet. We're moving this forward at a relatively decent pace today because, as I mentioned at the start of the show, rather than the normal format, what we're doing is the first hour classic format, and then the second hour more of an award show type thing where we discuss various categories and the panelists come up with their lists of who wins fight of the year, etc. So let me move forward and just quickly run through some of the news in the sport of boxing. I'll actually stay with Jet, if I may, for the first piece of news. Mikey Garcia versus Sergei Lipnets confirmed, Jet. I haven't actually seen Lipnets box, but I'm sure you have. What's your take on that matchup?
Yeah, I saw you did. You did tag me in a tweet. I was really busy yesterday from work and that sort of stuff, so I didn't really get a chance to reply. Yeah, Lipinets is.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah,
You're all good, mate.
Lipinets. He's a decent fighter. I mean, he's a bit of a banger, and yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say he's feared in the division, but no one really knows who he is. So he's a very much an unknown commodity. He seems like a fairly handy fighter. He's not got too many strings to his bow. He's kind of a come forward brawler type, puncher, in your face, smash mouth style. So, you know what? If Mikey can just box from range, use the half step that he normally uses, and uses that effective jab, I think he can keep Lipinets at bay. But obviously these guys are significantly bigger, so it may be difficult because he did look, a fair bit smaller than who was it, Adrian Broner at 140. So yeah, we got to factor in that. But I'd pick Mikey Garcia as a slight favorite, just just due to the kind of opposition he's faced prior and present. So yeah, it's a decent fight. I mean, not one that that everyone was clamoring for. Obviously, everyone's kind of calling for the Lomachenko fight, but obviously, if he's looking to become a 2-weight world champion, I think Lipinets holds the IBF belt at 140. So, yeah, let's see how he does. I pick him as a slight favorite, and yeah, we'll see where that fight goes, and maybe if he moves up or he comes back down to lightweight and that sort of stuff. I want to see that. Yeah, Mikey Garcia is obviously looking for the big fights. So, yeah, we'll I'd like to see him against maybe like Lomachenko or Linares or someone like that. Not Terry Flanagan, because I know he's moved up to 140 and he's boring as fuck. But yeah,
could just interesting from what you're saying there, Jack. Could Lipinets beat Garcia? I mean, I know you're saying Garcia's a favourite, but I mean, what is it? A close fight?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the power to hurt anyone. So is Garcia. Garcia's naturally a heavy-handed guy, but Lipinets, he looks like a heavy-handed guy from what bits and pieces I've seen of him. Seen enough of him. And he's kind of like as I said, a brawler, a big puncher. He's in your face. He's not really he's not really a boxer. He doesn't obviously box from range. That's not his style. So it depends how the fight kind of plays out tactically. If Mikey Garcia wants it to be a bit of a war, then I guess Lipinets has a fairly a better chance, I guess. But if not, then Garcia can keep it at range, and I think he may just bust him up from range, and try and work from different angles from range, and use his jab effectively, because he's got a fantastic jab when he uses it. So I think I'm not saying it's I'd expect Garcia to win fairly comfortably, but maybe have a hairy moment or two.
Interesting. Okay. Anyone else on the panel seen any of Lipinets or have any comments to add on this fight?
I'll say. Oh, I was going to, but my phone's just gone. I'll come in afterwards. Sorry.
All right, pal. Jay, Tom, jump in if you've got anything to add. If not, we'll move on to the next topic. Eddie Hearn has confirmed the British Beef card, which will take place February the 3rd at the O2. Dillian Whyte no longer headlining. He'll be fighting in March instead. The card will feature Lawrence Okolie versus Isaac Chamberlain as a 10-round main event. Ted Cheeseman will fight Carson Jones on the undercard. There are also rumours that Gavin McDonnell will take on Gamalia Faye on the card. Rumours that Eddie Hearn has retweeted on his verified Twitter account. So he's obviously going for this sort of domestic rivalry theme throughout the card. I've got to be honest, I'm actually looking forward to this card. Isaac Chamberlain Okolie is a good fight. Cheeseman Carson Jones is a good fight. It doesn't have a glamorous headline name, but I think this is going to be good action. What do you guys make on this card so far?
What else is there? Is it just those two confirmed?
No, there's there is Ben Jones versus
Reece Bellotti.
Reece Bellotti. Ben Jones versus Reece Bellotti for the Commonwealth. You got Ahara Davis versus TBA. Felix Cass and Danny Dignam versus TBA. and it looks like the Gavin McDonald you're fired to be added.
Gavin McDonald versus Yafai.
Gamal, you're fired.
Okay.
Yeah, that's super bantamweight, mate.
But is Yaman Gamal, is he not a flyweight as well?
No, he's a super bantamweight, Tom.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I've seen him, but I forget him. But, you know, it seems like a reasonable card, yeah. It seems pretty decent. I don't know if to fill out the O2.
Level next gen card, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only, yeah. Like, I can't see it selling 20,000 seats. I think it'll probably do 6,000 seats or something like that. But
I imagine you only opened a lower bowl, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. You know, but the headline one is I think it's a bit much. How many fights has Okolie had for a headliner?
6.
4? 6.
Yes, sir.
You know, he's fought 6 journeymen, and now he's headlining. I don't know. It just seems a bit strange to me. I don't think it's a headline fight, but it's a good fight. Decent card so far.
Eddie Hearn
pretty good.
So that he'd had the O2 book for Dillian White, and with Dillian White not fighting on that event now, he just wanted to not lose his booking. So that's kind of why we're seeing this fight in that headline status. But yeah, it's clearly not a sort of sellout O2 Arena bill. Well, what's your take on who wins the fight, Tom? We've discussed it in the past, and I think both of us have sided with Chamberlain in the past, but I've changed my opinion now. Where do you stand?
Why have you changed?
I've watched more Chamberlain, and I actually think Okolie has shown real signs of improvement recently.
Yeah, I haven't seen, like, when you say you've watched more Chamberlain, what have you watched since?
What since the Camacho fight?
Yeah.
I cannot remember the guy's name, but I watched his full fight on the next gen card since. And my concern is Chamberlain. It's not just that he's a light puncher. It's because it's not all about power. It's that when you look at his punches, they're just not eye-catching. You know, he's a back foot, low output guy. He's not overly athletic. You know, whereas Okolie, for me, is starting to throw straight punches. And my biggest criticism of Okolie when he was starting was that he was winging in punches wildly and that he'd be a counter-puncher's dream for a guy like an Isaac Chamberlain. But now you're starting to see Okolie throw straight punches down the middle, get a jab going, get the 1-2 going, bringing his hand straight back to in front of his chin. I think he looks like it's not just about power. His punches are just so much more eye-catching. They're so much more snappy. They look more dangerous. He's a guy who presses the pace. He very much is the first one, the leader in there. And because of that, in what I still view as a 50-50 fight, I've slightly swung my opinion to Okolie.
What about Okolie's chin hanging out there like a lamp?
Okolie's been knocked out in the WSB, hasn't he? And his chin is still hanging out there. But I think the biggest worry with Okolie getting caught is this tendency that he had to be really overeager and to wing in wide punches. And I think he's really worked on that, you know, admittedly at a lower level, but I don't think he's doing that to the same extent anymore. I
don't rate his footwork. His footwork's not great. He looks very, for me, I've always thought, and I think we've said it in the past, he's open to be knocked out, that kid. He's wide open, and I just think I would back Chamberlain in this one, most definitely.
Shout out Ultra Tech. Because Lawrence Okolie is on the accidents waiting to happen list, and this is an accident waiting to happen. Chamberlain is winning this fight.
He's wide open, that kid. He's wide open, and I've seen that for quite a while. And that's the problem is with something like that. Until he gets knocked on his arse, it may be not. It may be a bit too late then, but it will only then he might address those. And they're fundamental issues. And unfortunately, if you don't have fundamental issues from when you very first start boxing, it's very difficult to lose them. And if you've got that power, it sort of can get you out of trouble. But it might not be able to get you out of trouble. You might run out of luck eventually. Whether that's against Chamberlain or not, I don't know.
I think that's the key, because I completely agree with what Ultra Tech Sports says, what Jet just said, what you just said, and what Iris was implying. But the question is, will Isaac Chamberlain be the man to expose it? Now, somebody just put in the chat, Isaac Chamberlain has better fundamentals, better technique. Isaac Chamberlain's very calm in there. These are all correct comments. I don't disagree with any point that's been raised. But would you pick him to beat Okolie? You know, that is the question.
Well,
For me, yeah, I think probably Eddie Hearn calculated risk of this is because he knows he's got to fill that venue. He can't lose his money on booking the venue, etc. And he knows he needs something. What's it called? The title of the bill? The British what?
Beef.
British beef.
So, and that's probably the biggest British beef fight he could probably get with his stable of fighters at this point in time to get together.
It's pretty pathetic because, like, it's a 6-0 versus what, a 9-0.
But he can build on it, can't he? There's a relationship between them going in the past. It's been building, and that's what he's going to jump on. So I'd say it's a calculated risk for Eddie Hearn. You know, not one he would probably have took. I wouldn't imagine. The
thing for me in this fight is that I think Chamberlain is a very tough guy. You know, when these guys, when there is a bit of Yorkshire pudding between them, that there is sometimes, like, you know, Okolie has never been dragged into that water, while Chamberlain has. And while he mightn't be the biggest puncher, you know, like, how good is being a really big puncher if you're up against a slick guy and you can't land like Lemieux? Like, I think it's just a very good matchup. I do think it's a very good matchup. But I don't know what the odds on it like. What are the odds? Is it like 13-8 for Chamberlain?
It's very interesting you say that, Tom, actually, because it's been one of those markets where there's been a huge amount of movement. You and I actually discussed the odds on this podcast 2 or 3 months ago. And at the time, Okolie was a favourite, but he was a favourite by like sort of 8 to 11, you know, that sort of margin. I actually looked at the odds in anticipation of this before we actually went live. He's now 8-13 on, and Isaac Chamberlain you can get at 13-8. So Isaac Chamberlain, at least from a bookmaking perspective, is now a substantial underdog.
Yeah, like, he is definitely the B side because he's got a less attacking style. But I think this is like a cash out for Eddie Hearn with Chamberlain. But it's one of those ones that if he beats his man, you know, it's like, you know, Don King, he'll just leave the ring with the winner. You know, you know, it's just a good matchup. It's just a very good domestic matchup. It's you know, that's 2 we'll have. Well, it won't have this year, but, you know, it's like the Josh Taylor. It's like a lower level version of the Harry Davis Josh Taylor one.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Big matchup, and certainly one that I'm looking forward to. Cheeseman, Carson Jones. I think that's a truly excellent fight. I really do.
I think that's even just as good a fight as the main event.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I've been super impressed by Cheeseman so far in his career to date, you know.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that could change up a lot of the levels. Like, he can brawl when he needs to brawl. He can pick his punches when he needs to pick his punches. He can adapt to a lot of situations. He's a very, very good fighter, and I've been saying that for a long time. I just don't think he has any sort of name value and that sort of stuff. And it's nice to see Eddie Hearn actually invest some time into him, because I think he's actually one of the better prospects that he has on his books. So he's certainly better than, you know, someone like Okolie or someone like that. For me personally, as just a fighter himself, he's a much more schooled fighter than Okolie. But, you know, obviously these guys have name value, so they get precedence over someone like a Ted Cheeseman. But yeah, very good fighter. Carson Jones, a solid fighter. He kind of got robbed in his last fight against Margarito. But hopefully it's an exciting fight, and yeah, we see Cheeseman come through with a good performance.
It's a massive step up for Cheeseman, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He's been fighting that sort of English level. You know, he's been fighting below British level. So obviously he must know something that, you know, I wouldn't. The thing is, I would say, oh, he's bringing Carson Jones in weight drain or something like that. But he's given him ample time. 2 months at least. And yeah, he obviously thinks Cheeseman's worth the gamble, and you know, it'll probably rank him quite well in some governing bodies. See if he can probably get ranked with a WBO or some weak belt or something like that, and see if Eddie Hearn could push him towards that sort of, you know, route, or European title or something like that. Because obviously Smith and Williams are with Frank, so you know those fights aren't really going to be made. So probably the next route is a shot to a European or a world title or something like that.
Totally agree. Really, really like that matchup. Right. Anyone else got anything further to add on that?
Well, I've got one thing to say is that we haven't talked about Conor Benn's performance.
We have not actually. No, it was his performance was actually live during the last podcast, so we never actually covered it. Although I did do a video subsequent, but I'm presuming just because Irish is Irish, Irish Tom is Irish Tom, not anything to do with the fact you actually hail from the Emerald Isle. But I'm presuming you had Ben winning by a robbery, Tom.
Yeah, it was a bit of a hometown decision then. It was probably a draw or, you know, a point win to the French dude. He was French, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
got beat the fuck up, man. Sorry.
A great fight though, wasn't it?
It was a great fight.
Very exciting.
And he showed heart, Conor Benn, but you know, he's got a lot of work, he's got a lot of distance to come. I think when you heard him being interviewed about the fight afterwards, you know, like he was saying, like, oh, I don't remember anything about my fights. I have to watch them back. So, you know, Conor Benn is one of these fighters. He's very instinctive, you know, and I think that like you need to get out of that instinctiveness and get to a stage where it's more thought, you know, and he's more his mind is more relaxed because, you know, he's going to come a cropper.
But did he say that because he just got battered? So he's going to go, yeah, I don't remember really what he it's like that kid. If I ever saw a hype job, that's it right there.
I think the with Conor Benn is he's fucking not big enough to be fighting in that fucking division. Like that guy was like a journeyman with about 6 fights, and the guy was just like hurting him with everything he threw. I don't think Conor Benn's a welterweight. I'm not even so sure he's a 140 fighter.
He's a lightweight for me.
I completely agree. We've been saying it for so long now, but do you know what? Like, I met Anthony Crolla and Conor Benn on the same day, and I think Crolla's potentially the bigger guy. He really is a small guy, Conor Benn.
But what are they doing with him then? Well, like, why is nobody? Surely we can't be the only people that notice this. This is the thing I can't figure out with some fighters. It's like, you know, like Wilder as well. It's like, can the trainers just not do anything about? Like, are these fighters so sort of like pig-headed and so sort of like egotistical that they can't be told anything? Because it can't just be us. We're not like fucking. We're not really oracles. I mean,
you know what I think? I think what's happened is. They sat down and had a conversation with Conor Benn, and they've decided he's in no way ready to fight for any sort of title. So they've sat down and said, look, he's a good marketing machine. Let's get him to 25-0, 30-0. Let's box him 10 times in 2018 without taking a risk. Let's just sling him in with journeyman after journeyman after journeyman. Get him a year older, get him a year stronger, get him to 25-0, build the hype. And because they've decided to fight him at such a low standard of opponent, they've just thought, okay, we won't bother getting him to make weight. You know, what's the point in getting Conor to cut down to a fight weight when he's only fighting bums? But what's actually happened is Ben is now performing at such a low level. Well, even though he's fighting a journeyman with a losing record, actually the guy didn't have a losing record, but very close to that. You know, he's actually performing at such a low standard that he's getting found out. But that guy, it was bizarre.
I think
Didn't he miss the super? Sorry, didn't he miss the welterweight limit? Sorry, Paul.
He did, but it was a weigh-in on the day, so I think they made it a light middleweight catchweight. But look,
Even worse.
And light middleweight it's a joke. I mean, can you imagine sitting Conor Benn next to Saul Canelo Alvarez?
Oh, mate, look, the thing is, like, hopefully they've learned from this now, then, because obviously, I mean, what you say makes sense. That might have been their thinking, but this has obviously got a kind of like exposed that thinking as a bit fucking dodgy, like, because like as soon as he goes in with anybody with sort of like a decent bit of speed and real power, because I don't think that Payno had like real power, he's gonna get iced. He's so open defensively. They can't keep fighting him at welterweight. That he's an accident waiting to happen. He really is.
Spot on. Yeah.
Good heart. I do want to say that. Fucking heart on the kid. Real heart on him.
Good heart. Yeah. And I also don't think he's got a terrible chin. I know he's been put down twice, but having watched the fight back, I think both times he was more sort of knocked over than actually hurt. It was almost because he was standing so square and having such poor balance in there, he got tipped over. But, I don't
beaten up, though. I think he got bashed up. I think he got beaten up bad. That sort. I know he's really young, but that sort of beating takes years off your career.
Yeah, you can't keep taking those beatings. This is the problem. They've got to learn from this. You can't even from low-level guys like this Payno. You can't keep taking beatings like that. He took a hell of a shellacking, mate. Both of his eyes were pretty much closed.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. Be very, very interesting what they do next with him. Maybe they'll look at the weight class. I actually heard Eddie Hearn discussing it in an interview, and he was saying he wonders if Conor Benn was tight at the weight. Surely the answer isn't send him up even higher. God only knows. But yeah, we'll see. I'd quite like to see the Payno rematch, although I do take on Paul and Jet's points that these kind of fights won't do good for the long term, I guess. But I think that the rematch is a pretty obvious fight to make. Anyway, okay, there we go, Iris. We've discussed that one for you now, then, mate. So we'll move it on, and we will get ready for the Boxing Gossip Podcast 2017 awards. So, drum roll, please. Lots of categories we put down to discuss tonight. Promoter of the Year, Global Knockout of the Year, Upset of the Year, Global Prospect of the Year, Fight of the Year, UK Fighter of the Year, and Global Fighter of the Year. So we're going to be rattling through that over the course of the next hour or so. Before we do, let's start on a lighter note. Pick of the Year. The award for the most memorable panelist pick of the year.
Oh, yes. I know which one's coming. Go for it, Gossip.
Well, let me throw it out to you guys. Do I have any nominations? Do I have any honourable mentions? Who would like to volunteer a moment from the year's boxing?
Don't
take
even
it away.
Fucking start. Don't even go there. Whoever's thinking about it, don't even bother.
Irish, take it away.
It was the power. We don't understand the power. You just don't appreciate the power. It's the power.
I've got to say, like on that particular charge, I'm fucking guilty. I don't have a defense. I don't have anything to say. All I can do is really just sit here and go, "Yep, okay."
We are, of course, referring to the infamous podcast where Paul picked Conor McGregor to beat Floyd Mayweather by knockout.
Pick him, you tit.
Just embrace it, Paul. It's fine.
I was the only guy that picked Floyd by star pick. You all fucking thought he was gonna go the distance. You bunch of clowns.
At the same time, you said that Conor McGregor would be in the fight and has a chance, and we all went, no chance, not a prayer.
Well, he was in.
Am I right or am I wrong?
He was in.
He was in the,
He's still
in the ring.
They still roll for the ball here.
He was in the ring.
He
turned up.
About 3 or 4 rounds. You damn fuck.
Irish, drop the knowledge on him. What Irish?
Well, you still won't let it go. You gotta let it go.
I've also got to put forward a nomination for Irish Tom with the Lomachenko-Rigondeaux fight, because despite giving it large for weeks in advance that Rigondeaux was going to do the business, Irish Tom turned around and said that he was picking Lomachenko on points, but didn't rule out a draw, a Rigondeaux points, or a Rigondeaux knockout. The one thing he did guarantee, and he said that he'd be back to serve it up to me next week, is that my prediction of Lomachenko by KO would not come true. So Irish Tom pretty much picking every single option you could pick in that fight, except the one that actually came through. I think that definitely deserves a nomination for panelist pick of the year.
The infamous sitting on the fence pick.
How did your arse feel? Because I'll tell you what.
That was a moment of pure bottle from Tom there. You know, he really lost his arm.
He sat on the fence for so long, he's got fucking splinters in his arse, man.
Shut up now. Shut up there, McGregor. Now, listen. If you actually go back and listen to the times when we talked about Lomachenko, even the weeks before that, I said that I made Lomachenko a favourite, but I was going to pick Rigo. And then when you asked for my pick, I actually picked Lomachenko. So,
Tom, you said to us you were going to
unlike Paul, who picked McGregor. Unlike Paul, who picked McGregor every single time.
You said you were going to sit here and grill us all, man. That's what you said.
Paul, you just got to own it. You got to own that L, Paul.
Well, when it comes to predictions, we know what to do. You just give every outcome of the fight possible, and then you cover it, or you just go with the majority. One of the two is easy. At least he put his neck on the line, you know. At least Paul obviously went out on a limb and made a bold prediction for McGregor to win. But you know that takes some sort of madness.
Would anyone else like to put forward a nomination?
Well, you see, there's so many of these ones. We forget what year they're from.
Yeah,
you see, that's the problem.
Yeah, I do. What year was Frankie Gavin, Sam Aggington? Because that was better.
I've just been.
I think that was last year, Paul.
Cleverly Bramer.
Was that?
Yeah, Cleverly Bramer.
Frantically googling Cleverly Bramer to find a date. No, Gavin Eggington was last year. Sorry, Paul. All right. Well, I'll take votes then. Let's exclude Paul and Irish Tom from this. Let's stick with the other three panelists. Jet, who is your pick for panelist pick of the year?
That's an easy one. Paul from McGregor.
Jay.
Yeah, I'll second that. With a close second for Irish Tom. Very close. Very close.
Shut the fuck up. How can you say? Why not get the coach? How can you say it's a close second?
Just because it's average. But I'll take a close third on Takam Joshua.
Two double gold Olympic medalists going head to head, and then another one is Floyd Mayweather against a fella making his debut. You're saying they're equivalent.
It's just the way you hyped it so much. So, you know, I had to take it for Takam Joshua. I took it. Why as bad as Lomo and Rigo? Not even close.
Well, the panelist pick of the year goes to Paul for his pick of Conor McGregor. Paul, would you like to say a few words?
Hold on a fucking minute here.
Hey! Hip hip hooray!
I never even got a fucking vote there. Neither did you, B.
Yeah. Own it, Paul. Own it.
You lost by majority because Irish was obviously going to pick it, so we didn't need to go for further votes.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take the L, even though I didn't pick him. It's all...
Own it. Okay, many congratulations to Paul. I think I hope you'll be back to defend your crown next year, potentially.
Paul left the court. Paul has left the call, mate.
Has he left?
He's left.
That's it. Never see him again now.
Well,
that was the.
Paul has left. Unclear whether he's Oh, he's back. He's back. Paul, we were worried you'd walked out in disgust.
No, I tried to mute myself when I pressed the red.
He's back. He's
In
back.
rage. In rage.
Paul will be back to defend his title next year. And if McGregor does get that fight against Canelo, we do know that Paul does back McGregor's power. So, you know, who knows? Who knows? But anyway, credit goes to Paul for that one. Let's move it on and let's pick Global Prospect of the Year. I'm going to start myself. My nomination for Global Prospect of the Year is Anthony Yarde. I really like what I see in Anthony Yarde. He has the power, he has the technique, he has the skill, he has the movement. Defensively, there's a bit of work still to do, but I think he can sharpen up there. He's started to go through the levels. His resume isn't all there, but it's what we're talking about here is prospects, not contenders. And he signed off the year being the first man to stop Cez Locker, a man who'd gone the distance with the likes of Callum Smith, Arthur Abraham, and was actually coming off a draw at European title level with Robert Stieglitz. So my nomination, Prospect of the Year, is Anthony Yarde. I'm expecting a big 2018 for him. Let's go to Jet.
Can you come back to me? I still need to think about this. I haven't had a time to formulate a list.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Jay, have you got any thoughts on Prospects of the Year?
World Prospect of the Year, not British Prospect. World Prospect.
Yeah, we in the revised agenda I sent out, I merged them as one because we didn't want too many categories.
Oh, I never saw that.
I think, yeah. I think Benavidez, for me, really, really talented. I know Irish Tom loves him. Really, really talented. He's got a tough guy, tough kid. Showed he's tough in his last fight, but has a certain style which is going to cause anyone problems, and he's going to be involved in some really big fights.
He's a world titleist.
I don't think we.
He's won a title though. Jay.
How old? How he's only a kid though, isn't he? That's I was really going off age really as a prospect for me. Sorry, I do apologise. I think that'll be the nominations next year. Okay, so as a kid, Josh Kelly.
Huh?
Really, Josh Kelly.
Ah, Jesus.
For me, I was thinking of picking Josh Taylor, but I excluded him on the basis that I didn't think he was a prospect. You know, I thought he was.
Yeah.
Josh Taylor.
I like Josh. I like Josh Kelly.
Yard had to be a contender. Josh Taylor is a contender.
I don't know. Josh Taylor's just sort of like for a kind of like top 10 guy. Has Anthony Yarde? Anthony Yarde doesn't. I don't think they're quite in the same place, are they?
Yeah, I think Josh Taylor's operating world title level already.
Yeah.
Well, that just means that you think he's good enough to win a world title already.
No.
It doesn't mean that he's.
His last fight was against a guy who'd had multiple world titles. You know, I think he's already putting in form at that standard.
Yeah.
Whereas Yarde is very much still taking prospect type fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of debatable. But you know, well, I had Josh Taylor as my one. But if Jay's getting away with Benavidez, then I'm getting away with Josh Taylor.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, I'd say Josh Kelly. I really like Josh Kelly. If you're going for prospects of, he's 5-0. For me, I really like his style. He's exciting. He's quick. He's sharp. He's got arrogance and that confidence about him, which you don't get to see in many fights. They tend to come around every so often. So I expect big things from him over the next year, 18 months. So for me, Josh Kelly. Love him.
Fair enough. Paul.
Yeah, well, see, I didn't get the memo about merging them, the email. Well, see, because like when I think of prospects, I ruled out anybody like Benavidez or Josh Taylor or anything, because I just think if you've won a world title where you're operating at that sort of level, that it kind of rules you out. So I was thinking of like a lot sort of like newer guys. So I mean, like obviously I picked a UK one and a world one. So UK one, I picked Josh Kelly. I think he's an incredible fighter. And world prospectors, a kid called Ryan Garcia, who I'm really kind of like think he's amazing. He's got really fucking quick hands, like quick hands as in like Amir Khan quick, probably quicker than Amir Khan's hands, I'd say. Our really good fighter, Ryan Garcia. So if I had to merge the two and pick one of them, it's going to be Ryan Garcia, I think.
Okay. Fantastic. Jet, let me go to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Josh Taylor. I'm probably going to go with Josh Taylor. I think he's been the standout British fighter, and probably he's broken onto the world stage with a bit of a bang against Miguel Vasquez and Ohara Davis this coming year. And he's been a real problem for the guys at 140, and I'm going to pick him.
I'm going to make a potentially unpopular decision here. I'm going to exclude Josh Taylor. I just don't think we can give him prospect of the year. I don't think he's a prospect. I think he was probably our prospect of the year last year, if I recall back to it. And he's a guy
at the same time, the Benavidez can't be a prospect either.
Totally agree.
Benavidez is a proven world champion, so
totally
proven world champion, but he's won a world belt in his last fight, so he can't be a prospect either. So
I completely agree. Completely agree. So I'm going to go back out to the panel, and I'm going to say the nominations are Ryan Garcia, Anthony Yard, and Josh Kelly. I'm going with.
Wait, now I'm going to nominate someone else then if I can't. I'm going to nominate Daniel Dubois.
Okay, that's a respectable nomination. Daniel Dubois. Okay, so the nominations are Ryan Garcia, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yard, and Josh Kelly. We don't have a consensus. So, Tom, are you going for Dubois?
What? Huh?
Are you going for Dubois, Tom, out of that list?
I'm going for Dubois, yeah.
Okay, I'm going for Yard. Jay, you're going for Josh Kelly?
It just shows you how rubbish these World Prospect of the Year awards, because we don't know any of the good fighters from the other countries when they're this shit. So we just end up going with 3 British lads.
Paul, are you going for Ryan Garcia?
No, do you know what? Just to swing it, and just because I'm such a big fan of his style, I think he's just got a lot of attributes. I'll go with Josh Kelly.
Get him, Paul. Get in. It's all forgiven.
And Jay, sorry, not Jay. We've had Jay. Jet, Dubois, Yard, or Kelly?
Dubois.
Dubois. Interesting. We have a tie. 2 for Dubois and 2 for Kelly. Let's go to the chat.
Yeah.
Daniel Dubois or Josh Kelly? Cast your votes. I'll take a sample of votes that come through in the next 30 seconds, and whoever gets the most will win the award. Not looking for any alternative suggestions other than Daniel Dubois or Kelly. Jester is going for Kelly. Apples, Dubois. PJB, Dubois. Irish Tom, you've already voted. Boxing, Kelly. Stuart, Kelly. Brave, Dubois. Oasis, Dubois. Whizzle Treats, Dubois. Kelly, 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 Kelly. Dubois, Kelly. Dubois, Kelly. Dubois, Kelly. Dubois, Dubois. Bloody hell. It's close. It's very, very, very close. Very close. I'm going to give it to Daniel Dubois. By the minimum of margins, we're going to give it to Daniel Dubois, although it is close. So Daniel Dubois is the podcast prospect of the year. Congratulations, Daniel. Looking forward to a big 2018 with your fine self. Let's go to upset of the year. Who would like to put forward a nomination for upset of the year?
James DeGale. Truax DeGale.
Yep.
Surely.
I think that will certainly have to make the shortlist, though.
Surely.
Would anyone else have any that spring to mind? I've got one, which I will throw out there, which is Tony Bellew to beat David Hay. I'm not saying it's necessarily bigger than DeGale Truax, but I think it merits inclusion on the list.
I think it's a good shout, but I think like Truax was a middleweight who was getting like beaten up by small sort of like light middleweights only like 18 months ago, and he comes up to 168 and fights at that consensus top guy at 168, having never had a fight at 168, and beats him. Not only beats him, but beats the shit out of him. Fucking like, yeah, unreal.
Yeah,
I think that is a big upset. It is for me. That's the one that sprang to mind straight away. Maybe because it's fresh in the memory, but yeah, that was horrific.
Few people in the chat saying Saul Rungvisai.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big upset. But the thing was, Chocolatito had no business being up that high. He's a small guy. Rungvisai was so much bigger than him. It's ridiculous. But it is a big. Rungvisai just came out of nowhere, hasn't he? He's fighting.
Is it Strada?
Estrada, yeah.
He was. I think he was an unknown quantity as well.
Yeah.
That why is a big upset. Not that the fact that he was proving that he was shit and he won, but that he was an unknown quantity. Truax, we kind of knew that he wasn't good enough really beforehand, or we thought not good enough to beat James DeGale.
Someone in the just said Jeff Horn for Pacquiao. I guess quite a good shout as well.
Yeah,
Adam Hughes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Adam.
Okay, guys. So the nominations for upset of the year: Jeff Horn defeating Manny Pacquiao.
Wait. Is this the upset of the year? It is.
Yeah.
What about Lomachenko versus Rigo?
Indeed, by a knockout.
Or Mayweather McGregor.
Indeed. So the nominations for upset of the year: Horn to beat Pacquiao, Rungvisai to beat Chocolatito, Bellew to beat David Hay, and Truax to beat DeGale. Tom, who are you voting for?
I'll go for Rungvisai.
Jet.
DeGale to lose to Truax.
Jay.
I'm DeGale Truax.
Oh, we lost you there. Jay, go again.
Truax for me.
Yeah, Truax. Paul?
Yeah, DeGale Truax.
And I'm going DeGale Truax. So, Caleb Truax, congratulations. Upset of the year. A lot of money awaiting you in 2018. Fair play to Caleb Truax. I know it's a more recent fight. I think undeniably that has to be the upset of the year. And let's talk about the knockout of the year. Lots of contenders for knockout of the year this year. Who would we like to nominate for this category? People in the chat, you can feel free to put your recommendations in the chat. Guys on the panel, let us know your thoughts.
Bivol's knockout of Broadhurst.
Great, Sal.
Mikey Garcia against Zlatkonin.
On Zlatkonin.
Yeah.
Gassiev versus Radarchik.
Lemieux Stevens. Big one.
Sorosai versus Chocolatito.
Tete?
Yeah, I put Tete for the UK one simply because it was in the UK. It was a UK fight. I know Tete's not a UK fighter, but
we've scrapped the UK one, Paul.
Oh, for that as well. Okay. Fuck. Okay.
I have another one. Benavides versus Medina, Porky Medina.
I think that's probably
good.
The most impressive knockout because he hit him with about fucking 8 punches in about 4 seconds. It was ridiculous.
What about Wilder Stavern?
The first shot was decent, but the rest of it was pretty wild, and Stavern was just fucked, wasn't he? He was just a ghost, Stavern.
What about
Less
Roe Cox?
Mixed emotions on that one.
Less convinced. All right then, guys. So, anyone else got any more? We've already got 7, to be fair.
Well, Lemieux Stevens, I think, if that's not on there, that's got
on the list.
Just simply because he just knocked him out absolutely out cold. He was like sleeping, properly sleeping. Same with the Bivol one. Broadhurst was sleeping as well.
Okay, yeah. Nominations are David Lemieux versus Curtis Stevens, Saul Ringverside versus Chocolatito, Dimitri Bivol versus Trent Broadhurst, Mikey Garcia versus Dazan Zlatikanen, Gassiev versus Vladarchik, David Benavidez versus Medina, and Zelani Tete. I'm afraid I cannot instantly recall Zelani Tete's victim in that particular fight, but you all know the one I'm referring to. Let's go to the panel. Jet.
Mikey Garcia versus Latikanen, that was pretty chilling.
Paul.
Do you know what? Just for the way. Oh no! Do you know what? No. Bivol. Bivol was absolutely chilling. He iced the guy. Absolutely iced him.
Jay.
Yeah, it has to be Mikey Garcia. If you watch that, you know, he just turns him and then just full on swings with that right hook and absolutely knocks him cold. That guy was savage. He was so savage from such a very good boxer. So I you know, when I was thinking about it today, I found it hard to really disagree with that, because it was just, if you watch it again, it's a phenomenal knockout.
Okay. Tom? Tom, you there, mate?
Sorry. Yeah, I'd go for what about Josh Taylor versus O'Hara Davies? You never mentioned that either. I'd go for Porky Medina. Was it nominated?
It wasn't.
I'd go for the Benavidez knockout of Porky Medina.
Benavidez. Okay. So myself, I'm going to go for Dimitri Bivol, which means, yet again, we have a tie. Mikey Garcia against Dazan Zlatikanen, and Dimitri Bivol versus Trent Broadhurst. So I'm going to go to the chat. Now, once again, not looking for any alternative suggestions, I'm afraid. Bivol versus Garcia. Which one of those was the best knockout? That will win knockout of the year. So I'm just waiting for the chat to catch up, because I'm typically speaking about 20 seconds. And let's read out what the chat is saying. Jay has gone for Garcia. Sleep, Garcia. Jared for Bivol. Mr. Bizzle goes for Bivol. Oasis, Garcia. Lenny, Garcia. PJB, Garcia. Bivol. 2 for Garcia, 1 for Bivol. 1 for Garcia, 1 for Bivol. Garcia. We've got a consensus. Mikey Garcia wins knockout of the year on the panel. And I think the fact that he did it against such a durable and highly rated opponent means he deserves that position, in all honesty. So Mikey Garcia wins it. Fair play to Mikey.
I think it deserves it, because it was just one punch. That's the thing. It was one punch and boom. Lights out.
Yeah. It was a pretty chilling one, wasn't it, as these things go? Fantastic. Let me now go to a controversial category that always creates debate. Promoter of the year. Who are the nominations for Promoter of the Year?
Don King.
Hey. Let Irish Tom go with this one, because I can't wait to hear this. This is going to take about half an hour on why we shouldn't have promoters.
Yeah, we should have it. But
Let me just make a prediction. Because it's fashionable to do so, at one point, Tom will use the phrase, I hate all promoters.
Yeah.
Hashtag conspiracy.
Or BG is on Eddie Hearn's payroll.
Yeah.
Right, there's a payroll list here going around, and gossip's taken in. He gets, like, people in the chat don't know this. Promoters give him free tickets and shit. That's what gossips are. All, you know, feigning objective journalistic integrity. It's all nonsense. When the money's coming, gossips, he's up for grabs.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. Our boxing gossip is available to the highest bidder, and whoever wants to chuck money at me will get my full allegiance and support.
There we go.
It's out. It's cheap as well. If anyone's watching, not talking a lot of money to buy BG. Relatively affordable.
Oh dear. £2.50 around the bike bed. Like, you know, everybody knows I don't like promoters. So for me, it's not about a trendy thing. It's about these guys making millions off the back of fighters. And they do little to deserve the millions and millions they get. So the only promoters I will give credit to are promoters that are bringing boxing to the masses for free. And there's only one in England, which is Barry McGuigan, and the only one in America. Well, there's two in America. Bob Arum is bringing it to ESPN, which is practically, it's practically the whole country. So I'm going to give it to Bob Arum. He gets it ahead of the PBC this year because he's put on the better fights probably on free-to-air TV. So for me, it's Bob Arum, hands down.
Tom, not disagreeing, just for those who don't know, give us some examples of the fights he's put on.
He put on Rigo Loma. He's put on Crawford versus Indongo. Yeah. He's put on Manny Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn. Yeah. He's put on Lomachenko versus was it Mariaga?
Yeah.
He's he's put on what do you call him? What do you call this other featherweight? He's WBO featherweight champion. He's in a lot of exciting fights.
Lomachenko.
But
no, from Mexico.
Pachow.
No, the other guy. He's super feather, isn't he?
Oscar Valdez.
Valdez. He's put Valdez on a couple of really good fights.
Is Valdez a top ranked fighter?
Yeah, Valdez is top rank, isn't he?
Is he?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, he is.
You know, so for me, like, there's a lot of absolute top quality boxing getting on what's essentially free to air in America. It's the next best thing. So, like, for me, he's hands down the best promoter in the world for the fans.
Let me throw my hat in. I'd already said exactly the same thing, but for different reasons. I just think, not for the fact that he put 3 fights on, but he's put on the events in which, look, Terence Crawford unified a division. The only time in history 2 double Olympic gold medalists have fought. You know, that Lomachenko Sosa card had, you know, Usyk, Vosdick, like, these were, you know, he's put on a lot of good cards this year. For that reason, that's my pick, Bob Arum.
Interesting. Any further nominations from the panel?
I'm going to go left wing, and I'm going to say Sauerlands for me. And I'll tell you why. Because
we all know
the World Boxing Super Series, which is a tough tournament to put on in the first place. We've seen it before, and it was very long-winded, and it had many issues. But it seemed to have rolled it out pretty well. You know, decently competitive. It's been some enjoyable fights. There hasn't, touch wood, been any pullouts, any postponements, and it's gained a lot of interest, and it will bring something else to boxing, hopefully going forward with different divisions. They've got some good names involved in it with the weight categories that they chose, and I don't think it's an easy thing to schedule and to make successful. So I take my hat off that, you know, they've managed to push that out, and hopefully it will continue so going into 2018.
just to let you know, Callie called. He says he needs your address so he knows where to drop the coke off to later.
Lovely. No, I supply him. He doesn't supply me.
I think Callum Smallland is a pretty popular figure in boxing at present. He's certainly the babe of many boxing fans. Let's put it that way. I am obviously going to nominate Eddie Hearn. We look back at 2017. You have Joshua Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley Stadium. You have Errol Spence versus Kell Brook. You have David Haye versus Tony Bellew. My point is, whether you like these fights, whether you like the management of the fighters, when we look back at 2017 in a decade's time, a lot of the huge moments, a lot of the most high-profile fights have been put on by Eddie Hearn. Whether you like his method or not, I, for one, am a fan of boxing being as big time as possible. And I think he has continued to build on that in 2017. I think it would be remiss not to nominate him.
Do you just say that to wind Irish Tom up?
Yes.
Seriously. Just wait for the tirade. Cue Irish Tom. Go.
How could you have a year with those fights that I've just mentioned from one promoter and not mention that promoter in the conversation, though?
I think including Haye Bellew as like a reason why that's like he's like it was a popular fight, but like it wasn't a good fight. It wasn't a good fight in the ring. We didn't think it was going to be a good fight leading up to it. I don't. If anything, that goes against him. Like fucking out.
No, I disagree. So, someone's on the chat has put every one of the fights you mentioned were pay-per-view. Well, maybe it's because running a boxing YouTube channel, I want boxing to be as big as possible. But what I notice is every time there is a event of that magnitude, the interest in boxing just goes through the roof. You know, people are talking about boxing like it's in the national newspapers. People at work who, you know, don't know that I'm into boxing, you hear them discussing it.
I know, and the thing is, if they weren't on pay-per-view, they'd be much smaller because less people would be able to see them, and boxing would be less good. Well, so it's really good that less people get to see it.
A million times before. But regardless of that, my point is that when we look back at 2017, the huge memorable nights, a lot of them were put on by Eddie Hearn, and as such, I'm nominating him.
No, I'd say the Joshua Klitschko one, yeah. The Kell Brook one. Look, David Haye versus Tony Bellew is a shit fight. You know, a shit show. It's the type of shit that gives boxing bad names, putting on fake beef pay-per-views. The worst fucking thing. The fact that it's going to be big or it ended up being a reasonable fight is just neither here nor there.
Well, we were all excited for it, and we all watched it.
We weren't.
You were watching for it.
Like I didn't watch it, and I wasn't hyped for it.
And I'll say it was
because we all thought it was a shit show. All of us thought it was a mismatch.
I wouldn't even say it was a reasonable fight. And like fucking David Haye was hobbling around the ring with Tony Bellew chasing him for about 5 rounds.
Terrible fight. A guy we said afterwards, even though his cruciate ligament was gone, he still took rounds off fucking Tony Bellew. You know, and even though David Haye looked like shit, he was still like 5 or 6 rounds to 1 up. You know, a fucking terrible fight. And like that's
my point wasn't that Eddie Hearn deserves to be promoter of the year because of Haye.
It is. No, but it's some of it.
When we look back at 2017, Eddie Hearn put on multiple of the biggest nights in boxing.
In British boxing. Because that fight, David Haye versus Tony Bellew, was not a big fight anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere else in the world. Nobody gave a shit about it. It's like comparing, what was that Australian fight? It's like comparing Mundine.
On Haye Bellew. My point was Joshua Klitschko. My point was Spence Brook. My point was Haye Bellew.
Yeah, okay. But Spence Brook was a fight that Spence Brook was a fight that Eddie Hearn did not want to make. So I don't see why the fuck we should give him any benefit for that. He tried not to make it. Yeah, it was a mandatory. It was this fighter who took that. He actually tried to stymie that fight. What the fuck should he get any credit for that? If he wants to get credit for a fight, he should get credit for the Klitschko fight. That's a reasonable fight for him to get credit for. But all of the rest of them are bullshit. You know, give credit where it's due. But don't give him credit for the Kell Brook fight. He tried not to make that fight.
I mean, on Eddie Hearn, I'm normally with BG. I think on the whole, he has he's played a part in making boxing bigger. He's played a huge role in making it big in the UK, and that's good for all of us if we're boxing fans. I just think based on this year, given that, Aram's put on fights in which, divisions have been unified and history has been made, I think he just, on a global level, if we're talking about sort of global and not just talking about the UK, I think Bob Aram's clearly done better this year for me.
Yeah, like the one thing we should say as well is that, like, everybody gives Eddie Hearn the benefit for all of Joshua's success. That's Joshua's success.
Yeah,
most of that's done by Joshua. Look how much success who gives him loads of credit for all the success he's had with Kell Brook?
Yeah, we're not talking about fighter of the year. We're talking about promoter of the year.
We're talking about promoter. Exactly. We're talking about promoter.
We're talking about, look, this isn't a debate on pay-per-view. I'm just saying he has put on multiple of the biggest nights in boxing in 2017.
I don't think that's true. I think he's put on the big shows in England. Yeah. But most of the big shows haven't been in England. There's only AJ. You got your Canelo shows. They're very, very big. You got big shows like Kell Brook's got 20,000, 30,000. You get those shows as well in places like Montreal and these that have big sellout crowds. We don't really follow in the same way. But I don't think we can give him benefit of the doubt for putting on a fight that he didn't want to put on. Like, he should get no benefit. He should get none benefit for that. That's just a matter of him having a fighter on a platform. He deserves none of that.
One double benefit for putting on a fight he didn't want to put on.
That's you, Gotham. You just want to give him benefit for everything, but not give him any negative.
You just want to tear into him.
I'm tearing into you here.
One thing I agree with Irish Tom. Like, AJ's success has been largely down to AJ, but I think Eddie Hearn has played a role, because if you look at the world stage, there are other fighters in the world that are like just as exciting, just as whatever as AJ, and yet they're not the big stars AJ. So look at Wilder in the US, like I mean total, like apart from one, knockout record, talks well, big guy, and he can't even sell out his hometown. I think Eddie Hearn just does have to take a little bit of the credit for that, definitely, because I think look at how poorly other promoters have done with fighters that, if you look at them, they should really be big stars by now.
Yeah, well, like we're talking about who does better for their fighter, making the money and things like that. I think Eddie Hearn does well for making the money because he's got a pay-per-view monopoly essentially in England, right? And he pushed every type of fight onto pay-per-view that he can. Remember, we're getting British title fights on pay-per-view with Eddie Hearn. People laugh at Denmark and they laugh at, Finland and Australia for the shit they get served on them. We get it on for British title fights.
We didn't get a single one lost.
What?
Didn't get any lost, yeah?
Oh, yeah, but I'm just talking that we do get them. So, like, Eddie Hearn definitely is a good salesman. I'm not going to deny that. Like, if you look at, say, Al Heyman hasn't done good for some of his fighters. But we're talking about being fans. I'm not interested in how much money AJ makes. I'm interested, am I getting to watch boxing? And is boxing getting to be more popular as a sport? And AJ has brought fans into boxing. But I'm telling you, if AJ was on BBC, like in Japan, where Murata fought in front of 30 million people, well, AJ is probably watching in front of about 4 or 5 million people. And at the maximum, there's no comparison.
Maybe maybe they still wouldn't have been able to afford Charles Martin to come over and he'd still be fighting at British title level. Who knows?
That's bullshit. If you've got 30 million people,
it's an unknown.
It's not an unknown.
It is an unknown, Tom, because it didn't happen. You're very good at assessing things as absolute facts that are opinions. It is a complete unknown.
Klitschko got half the money for the Joshua fight. It was a 50-50 fight. And most of that is because he's got a huge domestic market in Germany, which is it was not on pay-per-view in Germany. Klitschko Joshua was not a pay-per-view fight in Germany. Right?
Tom,
and do that,
half the money because of the pay-per-view market and the ticket sales in the UK. That's why Klitschko was being able to bring over. Surely. They did
No.
1.5 million pay-per-view buys at 20 quid a go and sold 90,000 tickets in 30 seconds. That's why Klitschko got so much money.
No, Klitschko gets lots of money for fighting in Germany when it's not on pay-per-view.
We've been here before, but like, you know,
It might be exactly the same amount of money, but
they wouldn't have made exactly. Of course, they wouldn't have made exactly the same amount of money. You know,
Irish Tom,
which broadcast 30 million?
Sorry?
You've officially shit on the Christmas Spirit podcast. It was such a happy, easy-going podcast, and now we've just brought it down to the base level of depression and sadness and towards promoters.
Let's go to the vote. Let's go to the vote.
It just sets me off on one. Sorry, I should have done.
Let's go to the vote. So the
let's go.
Bob Arum, Kalle Sauerland, Edward Hearn, Irish Tom,
Bob Arum. Notable mention to Kalle Sauerland and what you call him, the fellow who used to be in Golden Boy but shafted them.
Richard Schaefer.
Paul,
Bob Arum.
Jay.
Kalle Sauerland, of course.
I'm going to go Kalle Sauerland. I think the World Super Series deserves it, actually. Jet.
Kalle Sauerland.
Whoa.
That's just tactical voting on gossip. That's disgraceful. Tactical voting.
Wasn't tactical at all. I was never going to vote for Eddie Hearn. I wanted to nominate him because I thought he was worthy of nomination.
Jet just hear what BG picks and then.
That's true. Jet is an arse licker of the highest pedigree. Let's be clear.
Be fucking joking me, mate. Fuck's sakes, man. Irish, I've had your back all night, you fucking cunt.
Oh, this is terrible. Unbelievable. One Jet.
That's got the first time I've ever heard Jet like proper like you cunt. I've never heard him say that before.
Jet's a new man. He's working.
I don't want to say what.
You see what's happened,
McGregor? Just
War Jet.
Do you know what's happened to Jet? He's left college. He's now working for the capitalist pig overlords, and it's really got into him. And it's made his soul dark, and we're seeing we don't see the light anymore. We're just seeing the dark. Jet.
Yeah. He's become cynical and jaded in a matter of weeks.
Isn't it funny? The awards show just bringing out the absolute worst in the panel tonight. Honestly, absolute worst. Right, we have 3 awards left. Congratulations to Kalle Sauerland, by the way. If you want to do a night out with the podcast panel to collect your award, I'm happy to fund it. We have 3 categories left.
I wonder what that is.
Yeah. Are we going to play bingo? Bingo.
So that's the gala.
We're going to the cinema, and then we're going to Pizza Express. All right, so we have 3 awards left.
Whoa, very classy, BG. Very fucking classy.
Fight of the Year, UK Fighter of the Year, and Global Fighter of the Year. So 3 awards. The Fight of the Year category includes both UK and outside UK fights. So let's go with that one. Panel, the nominations for Fight of the Year.
Was Poxton Boy Jones Jr.?
Yeah, was that this year?
Yeah,
this year. Yeah,
that's my vote. But I've seen all these over the past week or so nominations for Fight of the Year, but no one mentions White Chisora. Just me, because I thought it was a really good.
Wasn't that last year? Back end of last year, December or something.
Last year, was it last year? I thought it was this year.
No,
was it? No, it couldn't have been.
I think it was last year.
Sure, it wasn't.
It was last year. It was on the John Molina undercard.
Was it? Okay, then fair enough. Then yeah, it's Poxton Boy Jones Jr.
Poxton Woodstock is another good fight, I think.
What about okay, I'll write that one down. Poxton Woodstock. What about AJ versus Vlad?
Joshua Klitschko. I presume we mentioned Joshua Klitschko, have we?
I've just mentioned it. Yeah, AJ versus Vlad.
That's
the other one is what about James DeGale, Badu Jack?
Yeah, that's a good call.
Thank you, Iris.
And another one is Porky Medina versus David Benavides. That was a great fight.
Okay. Any more for any more?
Oh yeah, there's Farrell Williams versus your man Smile.
Great sound.
Josh Leather versus Foot. Another great fight. I think that's it for me.
So the nominations are Craig Poxton versus Leon Woodstock, Craig Poxton versus Boy Jones Jr., Leather versus Foot, Darren Williams versus Jermaine Smile, AJ versus Vlad, Medina versus Benavides, Badu Jack versus James DeGale. Jet.
Poxton versus Woodstock.
Woodstock gets one. Right. Jay.
Yes. Poxton, Boy Jones Jr.
Boy Jones Jr. Irish.
Even though I was at Poxton versus Boy Jones Jr. and it was the best fight I've been at live, I have to give it to Joshua Klitschko because it was a great fight. First good heavyweight fight in a long time. And, it delivered. And big boxing, I think, deserve extra kudos.
Who promoted that?
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn promoted that. He did a great job.
Yeah,
Fight of the year. You see, I'm balanced.
Bloody hell.
I'll give him fight of the year because it was fight of the year.
Wow.
People make out I'm not balanced.
Wow.
I am balanced. I'm consistent.
Wow. Do you know what? I was really tied between Boy Jones and AJ Vlad. I really couldn't make my mind up between the two. But I'm going to go AJ Vlad for the same reasoning as Irish Tom. So I go AJ Vlad. Who hasn't gone? Has Paul not gone?
No, I haven't gone. AJ Vlad for me as well. Just like, it's kind of like it was a passing of the torch as well. Also, it was a bit of a passing of the torch fight, weren't it? And kind of like I feel like it was kind of like signaled the start of a new era type of thing in the heavyweight division. It's definitely created more buzz in the heavyweight division, and it was a great fight. It just delivered loads of back and forth, knockdowns. Fucking the works. So yeah, AJ Vlad.
Fantastic. Okay, that leaves us with two further categories. The first category is UK Fighter of the Year. The second category is Fighter of the Year. Now, should you wish to do so, you can nominate your UK Fighter of the Year to be the Fighter of the Year, and it is possible for the UK Fighter of the Year to win both awards. Let's start with UK Fighter of the Year. Who are the nominations, guys?
I'm going to give someone unfashionable. I'm going to say George Groves. I think he had a good year. He won. Did he win the world title this year against Chudinov? Against Spence Brook undercard. And he had another solid win against Jamie Cox. And obviously he's got a big fight against Chris Eubank Jr. in February. So I think he's had a good year, a good comeback year as well. He's really pushed on in his career, won a world version of the world title. And yeah, I'll give it to George Groves.
I think that's the first shout. He was on my short list. I'd also put down largely for the Klitschko win. And I also, a bit of a rogue suggestion, Billy Joe Saunders. But I thought his performance over David Lemieux was probably the best performance all year. So I thought, whilst it was only a single piece of form, it was worth having him in discussion.
Josh Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, good shout. Very good shout.
For this last fight, plus the O'Hara Davis win.
Yeah, he's got a strong chance, actually, now you mention it. Very strong chance.
Is this UK Fighter of the Year or Global Fighter of the Year?
UK Fighter of the Year.
Billy Joe Saunders has to be up there, and AJ, for me, and Josh Taylor, they're the three standout fighters.
I think Billy Joe Saunders' form earlier in the year, given that the Akavov fight was this year, early this year, the Willie Monroe Jr., which he didn't look great. I think those two things, just for me, sort of like blight him a little bit. This last performance was incredible, but those two pieces of form kind of like looking at the year overall. Do you know what I mean?
Could you even throw in Tony Bellew in there just for his win over a proven sort of top name in David Hay? Not saying he should win it, but could throw him on his
I don't think he's a million miles off. But yeah, I think he probably deserves the nomination, but would be bottom of the list. Isn't it amazing, Tom? All of these UK fighters of the year who fought on Eddie Hearn shows over the course of the year, you know, all of them. And when we're looking back, talking to the fighters of the year, they've all been on display on Matchroom cards. Isn't that amazing?
Josh Taylor is Josh Taylor suddenly signed to Eddie Hearn? Is that what's happened?
No, but the other ones. Anyway, the nomination.
War gossip.
Josh Taylor, Tony Bellew, George Groves, Billy Joe Saunders, and Anthony Joshua. I'll go first. For me, probably between AJ and Josh Taylor. I'm going to go with AJ based on the fact that he beat the consensus #1 in his division and is, in my opinion, the only fighter in British boxing who you can say is the definite #1 in his division at present. So my vote is for AJ. Paul.
Just, you know, like really based on the fact that it's more than one piece of form. I think when you look at him, he hasn't proved himself to be the top fighter in the division 40. But for me, he probably is the best fighter at 140 already, Josh Taylor. And I know some people might think that's like a mad thing to say. But I suspect he beats most, if not all, of those fighters. And, you know, those two pieces of form and like the performances put him at the top for me. So Josh Taylor for me.
Good logic. Jay?
Yeah, Josh Taylor, because AJ failed to demolish Takam in 3 rounds.
A lot of people in the chat saying Ryan Burnett, and I guess he deserves an honourable mention, but even though he's won a world title and unified it, I'm not totally blown away by the standard of his opposition, let's put it that way. Jet?
George Groves.
Irish Tom?
I agree. Ryan Burnett has fought 2 cab drivers in his world title fights, so I go AJ with a close second for Billy Joe Saunders and Josh Taylor, you know, in second and third. But AJ is the only British fighter with a kind of an elite win this year. So for me, it's an easy one for AJ.
Interesting. We have a tie for the 3rd time tonight. We're about to go to the chat. Your choices are Anthony Joshua or Josh Taylor. Who will win the BG Podcast UK Fighter of the Year? Leave your comments in the chat. And as I said before, unfortunately, we're not looking for suggestions other than Joshua or Josh Taylor. It's just going to be one of the two. So let me know your thoughts. Oasis has gone Taylor. Matt's going AJ. Craig's going AJ. Haas has gone AJ. Peter's gone Taylor. David's gone Taylor. Boxing's gone AJ. Cameron's gone Taylor. James AJ. Skits AJ. And B Taylor. Sleep Taylor. Stuart AJ. Lenny Taylor. We're very close. Adam and Dwayne gone AJ. Brave. I'm going to edge it to Anthony Joshua. Joshua wins the podcast Fighter of the Year for UK.
9-7.
I think 9-7 was it? Okay. Yeah. My gut was right then. I think what you also have is people voting multiple times, which adds an extra dimension to the maths when you're trying to discount certain votes. So what we'll do is we'll put Anthony Joshua automatically as a nomination for World Fighter of the Year. we won't include any of the other UK fighters because they've already lost to AJ. So they obviously won't be winning the global one. But we'll move to the final category, Global Fighter of the Year. In addition to Anthony Joshua, the nominations are?
Hold on, is there not a Performance of the Year as well?
Jesus.
There is a Performance of the Year one. You're right. I've been remiss.
What's this one we're doing now? Sorry.
It's not going longer than the Eurovision Song Contest.
Neil Point.
Maybe we'll scrap Performance of the Year then.
Billy Joe Saunders, done.
Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders versus Lemieux is Performance of the Year, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's what I picked as well.
Yeah. All right, let's make it quick. The award for Performance of the Year, Billy Joe Saunders for his win over David Lemieux. That's how we do it on the podcast.
I'm sure you'll be celebrating this win here.
Lenny has put in the chat, bullshit result. Burnett should be winning it, or Saunders for turning his career around. AJ beat an inactive 41-year-old and struggled with Takam. You can't give it to Ryan Burnett. Come on. Like, you can't just look at the belts. You've got to look at the guy he's been in with. Vladimir Klitschko is an all-time great heavyweight who showed in that fight he still had a lot less. Burnett, has never fought anything like that level of opposition.
Yeah, look.
In fact, Burnett has actively not taken the fight that was available to him at the similar standard.
Yeah, I mean, belts can't really mean that much when Ricky Burns was a world champion.
In 3 divisions.
Indeed.
Yes. Right. Fighter of the Year. Anthony Joshua is nomination 1. Who else would we like to put forward, guys?
Lomachenko.
Vasyl Lomachenko. Without a doubt. I don't... Yeah, Lomachenko.
So, this Fighter of the Year, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The final category.
Also, Crawford unified a division, first man since Lennox or what do you call him? Bernard Hopkins, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think when I was doing my notes beforehand, those were the 3 I'd already written down as the standout competitors. Would we throw Jeff Horn in there?
No.
Fighter of the Year?
No.
I'm not saying he's winning it. What about Saur Rungvisai?
Saur Rungvisai does deserve it. Yeah.
No.
Saur Rungvisai.
No.
I think he deserves to be mentioned, absolutely.
Comparing those guys to somebody that's unified a division and a guy that's like Lomachenko, who's pound for pound number 1 for me. I mean, I don't think levels.
What about Mikey Garcia?
I think that's a shout. I think Garcia's a good shout. But look, one of the main reasons I'd say Mikey's a good shout is because the kid's just got such fucking balls, man. He will fight anybody. He don't really seem to care how big they are. Like, this is what I wanted to say at the start as well. With this guy he's fighting, Lipinets, Sergey Lipinets. Lipinets is not a bad fighter, you know. Mikey's got fucking balls. He don't give a shit. He'll fight anybody. And some good performances this year. So that's a good shout, actually, Mikey.
And he had such a long time out of the ring as well. So he's come back really, really well. And devastatingly as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to cause mayhem here.
This Lipinets is no doing either. Andre Ward.
Definitely.
If I was sitting in front of you, I'd poke you in the eye right now.
Definitely. And I'll tell you why.
Andre punch you in the balls Ward, yeah? Andre Tony Weeks on the payroll Ward. Is this who we're talking about now?
I'm talking about Andre, back-to-back decisions over the number 1 in his division. Knocked out fellow pound-for-pound star Sergei Kovalev.
With a punch to the testicles.
In a weight class that isn't his weight class.
With a punch to the testicles.
This is weight class.
Yeah,
pound-for-pound kick, Andre Ward, the son of God.
It was his weight class. It
was his weight class. That shit about people saying it's not his weight class is nonsense.
The most underrated fighter since Joe Calzaghe.
The dirtiest fighter since fucking Jack Dempsey, probably.
Mate, but the first fight was in November.
Dempsey was 13.
The first fight was in November, so he's only had one win against Kovalev this year.
Irish knows Jack Dempsey wasn't dirty because he once read about it in an encyclopedia.
I've actually seen his. I've actually seen his fights, Gossip.
Have you?
Live.
He's actually right. It wasn't Dempsey I was thinking about. I'm thinking about somebody else. I can't think who it is now, so forget it.
Right. So the nominations are Andre Ward.
Boo.
Andre Ward.
No chance.
Boo.
Mikey Garcia. Sorry, I nominated him twice because of the 2 wins over Kovalev. Mikey Garcia.
Fucking wanker.
Saurang Vasai. Terence Crawford. Vasil Lomachenko. And Anthony Joshua. Jet, bring some sense to this equation. Who are you picking?
It's got to be Lomachenko, mate. This year have been,
good lad,
quality, top notch. He made Mariaga quit. Did he face Sosa this year, or was that last year? Yeah. So that's another really, really solid win. He beat fellow Olympic gold medalist Guillermo Rigondeaux. And yeah, his performances this year have been sublime. They've been, real quality. And yeah, I'd have to pick him. Terence Crawford, I'd say, is a close second. His couple of round demolition job of Indongo is real class. But I'd say Lomachenko just pips him.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think Lomachenko can win Fighter of the Year. I really don't think he can. He's beaten Jason Sosa, who's a good fighter, but for me, quite some way off elite. He's beaten Mariaga, who I wouldn't say falls into a similar category. And then he's beaten a Rigondeaux from 20 weight classes below for 5 years. Lomachenko's had a good year, but Lomachenko is not competing at the same level in terms of opposition as some of the other fighters on this shortlist for me.
The only reason I say that is the performances that he's put in against all of them. I know they're a lower level, but the domination he's put on them in subsequent fights has been that it's been unparalleled. I think apart from Crawford,
I think Crawford's equally dominant against the best fighters in his division.
Yeah, as I said, that's why I think Terence Crawford's second. I said Terence Crawford is close second. It's close between those two. I just picked Lomachenko. Maybe he had a bit more dazzle and that sort of stuff in the fights, but I just thought the domination he put on all 3 fighters is there to be seen. Sometimes you just got to look at the performances. That's I
don't actually have him in my top 3.
Do you know what?
You have Andre Ward there, so that says it all. So.
Do you know what? I completely disagree, BG. I do think it's close. If you Postol, and
Postol wasn't.
Who were his best friends? Gambo.
Indongo,
Molina.
Nobody knew who Indongo was before he iced Troyanovsky. Anybody can.
Every single one of us on this panel said that was the number 1 versus the number 2.
What you mean? Crawford Postol was number 1 versus number 2.
That was, but also Indongo versus Crawford.
Tom, we've lost you.
No, we haven't.
No, I can still hear it.
Yeah, look, I think Crawford didn't fight Postol this year, though. He fought in the last calendar year. So since December last year, he fought John Molina Jr., Felix Diaz, and stopped him, which is a good result, and Ndongo, and unified the division.
Yeah.
I think 3 good performances in the year.
I think if you compare it directly to Lomachenko, the first 2 performances you've mentioned there, Tom, Felix Diaz and Molina, are broadly comparable with the likes of Sosa and Mariaga. Then the key piece of form, Rigondeaux is, someone from several weight classes below who had been extremely inactive. Crawford took on Indongo, who was the consensus number 2 in the division. It's easy to look back and say that he's not what we thought now, but he was the consensus number 2 in the division. And Crawford's been every bit as dominant for me as Lomachenko was over Rigondeaux.
The thing is, we will never know because the guys in his division seem to not want to face him. Miguel Bichelt's not looking straight away to face Lomachenko. Corrales obviously lost his belt to Mercado. You know, those guys lost to Garwa.
Oh, yeah.
No one wants to be in the ring with him, so we don't know. That's the only reason I picked Lomachenko.
I completely agree. And
just play devil's advocate.
That is bad, but that is not something we can take into account for Fighter of the Year. We can't say Lomachenko deserves extra credit towards Fighter of the Year because Gervonta Davis doesn't want to fight him. You know, Fighter of the Year is based on fights that we've seen, performances that we've seen, opponents, you know, that we've seen, and giving someone Fighter of the Year after Sosa, Mariaga, and some bloke with a bus pass from 3 weight divisions below is not really what, you know, something that I personally would do, given some of the other performances we've had this year. Lomachenko's in the conversation. I wouldn't have him in the top 3. I think.
Do you know what? The shortlist then, so we work for someone else.
Do you know what I think though?
I don't want to take out the shortlist.
I'll vote for someone else. It's fine. I've already thought of someone.
Have you changed your mind yet? Have I
changed my mind? I'm voting for someone else. You've got me annoyed now.
But
come on.
It's all kicking.
You can keep your opinion. I'm not saying you have to change your opinion. So what I'm saying, I'm just saying that for me, there's no way he's in the top 3 or 4.
Gossip is saying you can keep your opinion, but he's just saying that you're totally wrong.
Yeah,
and I agree with Gossip.
Suppressing it at the same time. It's okay. War Irish.
I'm on Gossip.
We've got a bit,
but I agree with Gossip here.
I think
you've got to be able to have different.
I think that Lomachenko is an outstanding fighter, and he's done outstanding things this year to fighters in the way he's dominated fighters. For me, pound for pound, number 1, unified the division, and made fighters look ordinary. He's a fantastic fighter, and if you watch those fights back, he enjoys his work. He makes his work look easy. He's technically superb. I'm a big Lomachenko fan, but Terence Crawford for me, because he's unified a division, you know, he has to go to him. I don't think there's any argument.
I'll agree with Jay and Gossip. I'm going to go for Terence Crawford for those reasons.
I'm not saying I'm going for Crawford. I'm saying I'm Crawford. Lomachenko.
It's AJ. It's got to be.
Oh, my feet. Look at him.
I'm nervous to say it. Let's go to Paul first.
I'm going to say Andre Ward is what he's going to say. Look at him. Look. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Paul, can I get a fight of the year for you? Fighter of the year. Paul, you're on mute, mate. Oh, he's gone.
I think it's Lomachenko.
Let me have a think. Let me have a think just before I commit myself.
Come on, AJ. Come on, AJ. Come on.
It's not going to be AJ. It's going to be Andre Ward.
I was hoping Paul would give me a bit more thinking time there.
Tick.
I think Fighter of the Year is Andre Ward. I do.
Oh.
I do. I think it's the strongest piece of form by some margin, actually, that was achieved in 2017. I think I'm a huge fan of Terence Crawford. You won't get a bigger Crawford fan over me. But whilst Crawford proved the dominant guy in his division and unified belts, and whilst Crawford did, on 2 separate occasions, take on the number 2 in his division, neither of those guys were established pound-for-pound stars in the same way that Sergei Kovalev did. And for me, based on the pure strength of that form and the devastation of the one-punch knockout victory, I'm going to go for Andre Ward.
What do you call it? I have another one to throw into the mix here. If we're talking about good, a good resume. Like, what about Golovkin? We haven't mentioned Golovkin, and also we haven't mentioned we haven't mentioned Terry Flanagan, and we haven't mentioned Errol Spence. You know, him beating Brook, that's good form too.
Are you joking?
No, I think Brook is a quality fighter. Sorry?
Terry Flanagan?
Terry Flanagan, he bet Petrov.
He didn't get nominated for British Fighter of the Year.
Because he was way above that gossip. You're so ignorant, gossip. I'm voting for Flanagan.
I know.
You just look at Gossip's face.
We'll close the door for late entry nominations. Like Golovkin.
Actually, I'm going for Golovkin. Actually, I think Golovkin's wins are best because he got rolled out of one of them, and then he bet Danny Jacobs in the other. I think that's really good form.
He didn't beat Canelo.
He did.
By a round.
Wow. So you changing your mind from Terence Crawford for Golovkin?
Yeah, I'm going for Golovkin.
Okay. Well, I think that's a strange decision, but it's not the first one you made tonight. Okay, Golovkin, 1 vote. I've gone Ward. Jay, remind me who you wanted.
Crawford all day, every day.
Say again, Jay?
Terence Crawford.
Crawford.
Who's this for? Sorry, I lost you guys there. Who's this for, Tom?
Fighter of the Year.
Okay.
Who are you going, Paul?
Lomachenko.
Jet, who are you going?
Flanagan.
Do you actually want that to be your vote?
Yeah, man.
Come on, Jet.
Been registered. We can't take it back. Can't take that back yet.
Fuck it. I don't care.
You'd be forever remembered for that.
No, it's not as bad as McGregor. Just chill.
True. True.
You actually have the casting vote, Jet.
What?
Well, we've got 4 people on a tie.
Come on, Jet. Stick by your guns, man. Be a man of Crawford. You started off saying Lomachenko. Just stick to your guns, Jet. Go on, son.
I'm sticking to Flanagan.
Okay. Golovkin's form is, Paul, you should know Golovkin's form has been better than Loma's, as in who he's beaten has been better this year.
Yeah, maybe, but he got a draw, didn't he? Even though I thought he won that fight, it's kind of like it's a draw, isn't it? I don't know.
We'll go to the chat then. So, chat, the fighters in the mix: Lomachenko, Crawford, Andre Ward, and Triple G. So, Triple G, Lomachenko, Terence Crawford, or Andre Ward. I'm going to actually, see as this is the big one, I'm going to take a tally. Not interested in any other suggestions. Okay, so I'm going to note this down. Boom. We have 2 for Golovkin. We have a Ward. We have a Lomo. We have a Golovkin. We have a Ward. We have a Crawford. You're not allowed to vote for the same fighter once.
You're not allowed Flanagan go?
Oh, you clown
Terry go?
Wood and gobshite, man.
Terry Flanagan, I took an executive decision to exclude him. You wasted your vote, yeah.
Ever the dictator. Ever the dictator.
This is it.
That's the capitalist system for you, Jet. That's the capitalist system for you. The promoter's friend here, you know, he's running roughshod over the free labor that we're given to this podcast.
That's Eddie's influence, that is.
He couldn't give a flying fuck about Osiris. That's what it is.
I'm going to declare the winner of Fighter of the Year, Andre Ward.
Oh, do me a favour.
You can't be serious.
What sort of points decision is that?
A fucking
Congratulations to Andre.
A fouling cheat is our fighter of the year. I'm fucking disgusted.
It reflects more than Kovalev, doesn't it? That's just the way it goes. What do you expect?
Lads, what we should do, we should all just hang up simultaneously and leave gossip on his board.
Fuck it, I'd back that, mate.
And do you know who you've got to blame for this? Jet.
Yeah, Jet. Thanks, Jet. Just because you're playing the Rebel
Shut
tonight,
the
Jet.
fuck up. God,
Once again, Jet, you made
fucking Andre the motherfucker Ward, who's only had one win this year against Kovalev. One win. And he fucking hit him with the balls.
That is absolute bollocks, mate.
Gossip, mate.
He tried to get Eddie Hearn in there as well for Promoter of the Year too. He tried.
It was nearly AJ. You could have been AJ.
As Paul has correctly stated in the chat, Ward is the son of God. You simply cannot argue. Correct.
And there we go.
I fucking resign.
Passion's running high on the podcast. Congratulations to Andre Ward. Well deserved. Thank you for your service to the sport. And I can speak for every single one of the panel when I say we wish you a happy retirement. And you're a legend.
And if Andre's listening, Gossip wants the bribe delivered in the same manner as Tony Weeks' bribe was delivered in. If you just transfer it the same way, Gossip will be happy with that. Okay.
Indeed. So there we are, guys. I think a good ending to what was a thoroughly classy and professional award show throughout, actually. I think we finally saw sense at the end. Right, so without further ado, that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight. We badly overrun, but it was a pleasure to do it. I hope people enjoyed the show. I want to thank all of my panel for giving up their Wednesdays. I want to thank all of the panel for giving up their Wednesdays throughout the course of the year. We do this every Wednesday at 8:30, and it wouldn't be as enjoyable if you guys didn't do that. So thank you very much indeed. I will take the opportunity to publicly say happy Christmas to the panel and to the watching viewers who I may not speak to again before the Christmas break. I hope everyone watching has a great Christmas, and I hope that Santa is particularly generous. Other than that, let me go to the panel and see if they have any final comments before we wrap it up. Let's start with Joe.
Sorry, Miss Crawford, I do apologise. Merry Christmas to everyone. Slip slide.
Appreciate it, mate. Jet?
Merry Christmas to us all. And Irish, play us out.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah. Let me see now.
Paul?
Well, I'd just like to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and I'll, as you continue your ending of the show, I'll play us out with a little bit of Bing Crosby White Christmas in the traditional thing started by Irish Tom. Music on the Boxing Podcast.
Well, I'd like to say happy Christmas to everybody except for Gossip. Oh, here we go.
Thank you, Iris. Is that you providing the music, Paul?
That is me.
Oh, what a lovely touch. And Iris, Tom, thank you very much as well for your well wishes. Well, without further ado, I'll call it a day, guys. Thank you very much to everyone who's watched. Thanks again to all the panel. This final call to please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe. And also you can check out Jet's channel, which is the Boxing Discussions channel. If you are yet to do that, please check out Jet's channel and subscribe there as well. Really do wish everyone a happy Christmas. Thanks to all the support of the podcast over the year, and we'll be back very soon, I hope. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, guys.
Au revoir.
Cheers, guys. Merry Christmas, man. Merry Christmas.
Ta-da.